Hey guys, welcome to another YouTube video. Today I'm painting Keira Knightley. From which movie I'm not sure, but if you know then please let me know in the comment section. I'm using Holbein gouache for this painting with my Hemi gouache pad, which I surprisingly really like, and I said surprising because I don't like to use Hemi gouache, but their gouache pad is my absolute favorite. Starting with a warm underpainting so that the light peeks through the many layers of gouache. The paper was bending a little because the paper's weight is only 160 GSM, which makes it unsuitable for too many wet washes of paint, but it still handles gouache very beautifully. I had this sketch done a long time ago but never actually painted it, so it was really exciting to paint over it finally. I found this reference picture on Pinterest and instantly fell in love with it. Keira Knightley is looking so beautiful in the scene snapshot, and plus the lighting is so beautiful, which I knew would make the painting experience that much better. I started with a slightly different painting technique in this piece. Instead of going directly with very thick paint onto the paper, I used thinner washes of gouache to build up the final painting to be more interesting and how I want it to be. I went almost as slow as possible here because I happen to have a bad habit of rushing through process, but this time around I wanted to go slow and enjoy the process even more, and because of that I was able to focus on the nooks and crannies of the painting more than before. I tried using more interesting color palettes here with more greens than I would include in my pieces usually, and I just love that Viridian green plus blue that I used on her clothes, which you will see later. I have to say it is such a moody color that it adds up a lot of character to the whole painting. Gouache is actually a medium that I didn't even know about when I started to get into art. I came across it via other artists on Instagram. I remember struggling to get myself a gouache set as it was the peak pandemic time, and had to settle for the cheapest ones available on Amazon as I didn't have the budget to buy myself better quality paints. I also bought oil paints at the same time I got gouache because that's one other medium that I really was attracted to, and I'm actually so glad that I got into both of the mediums at the same time because they are now my favorite mediums and I enjoy them the most amongst other mediums. So if you want to get yourself some new gouache paints and don't have the budget for artist quality ones, then just buy the cheapest ones available. If you're interested in something, you would have to start somewhere, just like I did and many other artists did. For her sleeves, I wasn't sure how to approach them as I'm not very familiar with painting fabric, and it is one of the topics I would really love to learn. Her corset was mostly black in the reference as well, but I wanted to add some extra texture to it. However, I ended up covering that up later because the texture wasn't looking as good as I wanted it to. Moving back to the face, I used my usual palette for it mostly, which is the combination of orange and purple, and since I don't have a bright orange in my set of gouache paints, I mix it myself with flame red and lemon yellow. I prefer to use lemon yellow because it makes a more vibrant orange against the flame red. And the flame red that I'm using is from Holbein, which is again very powerful. At many points in the process, I used gouache like watercolors, like in the same consistency as watercolors, to build up the opacity. It's very interesting to see that slight granulation in gouache. I am not sure if my camera is able to catch it. I wish I could show it to you the way I'm seeing it, but it's really pretty. My favorite part of painting with watercolors is the granulation on the paper, and when I saw that effect on gouache, I was really amazed. And the whole texture ended up being a plus in the whole painting, making it look more interesting to look at, I guess. But yeah, it just looked much better with that texture. I did not struggle as much with this piece as I expected. It has many complicated elements in the reference that I was putting off painting this for months. I know it's very cowardly of me, but more detailed paintings scare me a lot, and it's just difficult to get started with them. I did not struggle as much with this piece as I expected. It has many complicated elements in the reference that I was putting off painting this for months. I know it's very cowardly of me, but more detailed paintings scare me a lot, and it's just difficult to get started with them. I also tend to mess up the more detailed paintings as I rush through them, but this time around it felt much easier as I was going slow and thinking about the next step instead of directly jumping in. I think I need to do this more often, plan the paintings and going slow. A 1 hour quick painting does not bring as much joy to me as the one which takes 8 hours, because it just gives me plenty of time to think about the next step. And in this particular piece, I think it also has a lot to do with using thinner consistency of paint. As I was able to build it all up slowly, I feel like I'm just traveling at this point, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. One of my biggest struggles with gouache is getting the lighter tones correct. Just because there's a color shift with gouache and it's more visible in lighter tones, at least for me. So when the lighter colors kept getting darker when drawing on paper, I just moved on to paint the rest of the painting, and we'll come back to this later in the process when the darker values are established. It's easier to paint the lighter parts for me when the darkest ones are done, because those values put things into perspective for me a lot of times. For the hair, I used different browns and painted it very simply by blocking the colors. Focusing on each and every strand of hair can be a lot, and if you don't want the hair to be the main focus, I would recommend avoiding painting in that much detail. Talking about gouache, I have a workshop coming up for everyone who wants to learn more in depth about gouache. This workshop would include color theory, color mixing, and portrait painting. There is also one extra free session for everyone who wants to learn about portrait sketching. More details about the workshop are in the description below. Let me know if you have any doubts about it in the comment section. This is a perfect opportunity for everyone interested in gouache. I hope to see you in the workshop. Working on the smallest details is easier when my brush has a pointed tip. I use chamois art brushes, and they are my favorite as they hold their bristles together really well. I have been using the same brushes for more than a year now, and they're still in such great shape. This really reflects on the quality of these brushes. If you want to check these out, the link is in the description below. You can also use my code ARTSYODATA15 for extra 15% discount from their website. For her dress, I really wanted to add that contrast of cool versus warm tones, with the shadows being on the cooler side and the parts where the light is hitting would be warm yellow. I kept both of these parts pretty blended into each other with no harsh shadows to keep the focus of the piece on her face instead of diverting it somewhere else. I had the idea of adding Viridian green, which is very bright and cool, to some of the edges in the painting just to add a little diversity. Clothes are one of my weaker spots because I almost never paint clothes in a portrait and just leave that part out. However, it was different this time. I also wanted to focus on her dress just so I can get that same feeling I'm getting out of the reference picture. Like I mentioned before, I'm covering up the black of the corset completely because I didn't like that light grayish tone before and the texture just was not clicking for me. I will leave you guys to enjoy the rest of the process. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. And don't forget to check out details of my upcoming workshop in the description. See you next time. Bye bye.